This is part 2 of the 5-hour baby sweater. As you can see here, I did put a buttonhole. Like I said, you knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, and that will make your buttonhole. And if you do it on the other side, you go to the last 4 stitches, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2, and that'll give you the buttonhole on this side. But you keep maintaining your 3 or 5 garter stitches there, depending on what. If you're doing buttons all the way down, you place another button here and probably another button in this area. So let's go to the next set. The next set I'm going to do will be setting up to start the 2 raglans. Let me get this out of the way. And on the pattern, it's the last line of this page here. Let me push it up a little bit. Okay, and I'm using this one here. So as you can see, I'm done with all of the bumps and nubbies. So let's start with row 26. You knit 17. Let me get my markers because I'm going to need markers. So we're going to knit 17. This will take a little longer because I'm actually doing a full size one. And at this point, we have 103 stitches. So it should work out. So we'll check and see. So knit 17. I'm not going to count every stitch out loud because I know you can count. But 2, that's 5. Okay, there's 17. Then it says increase in the next stitch, which is the same as we did before, where you knit in the front and back of the same loop. So you knit in the front, rotate it, knit in the back, slide it over, place a marker, and then you increase in the next stitch, same way. Now you have a marker to show where your raglan sleeve begins. So now we're going to knit 15, which are the sleeve stitches. I won't go all the way across. I'll go just a little ways past the second marker and then turn it to show you how row 27 goes. I'm going to have to count and see where I'm at. Don't count this one, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then you do an increase, place a marker, and do another increase. So increase, running back of the same loop, place a marker, increase, and then it says to knit 31. Well, like I said, I'm not going to go all the way across. I'll go maybe 5 or 6, and when you get to the very end, it's the same as before. Knit the last 3 stitches. So what I'm going to do now is turn my paper over, because row 27 says to knit 3, purl to the last 3, knit 3, and slip the markers as you go. So I'm going to turn my work and show you how to do that part. You would actually knit the next 3, which we're not going to show on here because I'm in the middle of the work. So we're just going to start with the purl, but you know how to do the knit 3 at the beginning. So you go all the way across to the first marker, no increases, nothing special, just knit to the last stitch before the marker, slide the marker from one needle to the other, and then start knitting again, and knit to the next marker. Same thing, don't do anything with the increases on the back side, just knit each stitch individually or purl each stitch individually, whichever your pattern calls for. Let me get to the end. Like I said, since we know how to purl, I'm not going slow. I'm just going to whip through this so we can get to all the important stitches and rows we need to do in order to finish the sweater. Because there are several more parts to this sweater. And I'm going to take each part one at a time. You can stop the video at any point, replay the video. If you like it, sign up, subscribe to my account, and like it and share it with your friends so other ladies have the opportunity to learn this sweater. Like I pass my marker over, or I slip my marker, and then knit to the end, purl to the end, and then you would knit the last 3 stitches. So let me go ahead and get to the end real quick. Just about there. One more purl. Now I've got 3, so bring the yarn to the back and knit the last 3. Now in this case we just increased 2 stitches, one on either side of the sleeve and one on the sleeve. So now row 28 is to knit to the marker, increase in the next stitch, slide the marker, and repeat that 4 times. For a total of 4 times, because you're going to have 4 markers, one for the front of the sleeve, one for the back of the sleeve. The back will be here, then one for the back of the sleeve, one here for the front of the sleeve, and then the last 17 stitches for your front. So if we go ahead and do the next part, it's the same thing, but there's just a few more stitches. So instead of 17, we probably have 18 stitches here because we did that increase in the last, well, actually a little bit more than 18. There should be 19 stitches here. You can count them to make sure, because you increased 2 stitches total, I believe. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. Yep, I was right, 18. Now you have 18 stitches. Now you're to the last stitch. Now this stitch you want to do the increase in, because this is the stitch before the marker. Do the same kind of an increase. Slip the marker, do another increase. It's spelled out in the pattern. And then continue knitting across. Until you get to the next marker. Oh, by the way, you have to do this on a 24-inch long circular needle because it lays a little nicer. As you can see, it makes a nice ring. So it's easier to hold on to, and it's easier to slip it across. You could do it on a 13, 14-inch straight needle, but the stitches may get a little bunched up, and it's hard to measure and do some of the other work you need to do when you get to other aspects of this particular sweater. So I'm down to the last stitch before the marker. Increase. Slip marker, increase, and continue knitting to your next marker. So that's how you would get your raglan angles on either side. This is kind of hard to see being yellow, but you can definitely tell there's some more increases here. All right, now the next segment, we're going to get into separating the sleeves and the body. Now, when you get to the very end of this part here, let's see, the pattern will tell you to cut up thread a little, like 2-3 foot long, because it's easier to start and stop on this sweater over here near the sleeve versus over here near the end, because then you'd have to weave it in. So now it says knit 21, and you can place those stitches on a holder and then knit the 23 for the sleeve and keep on going, and then place the other next set on markers. But I don't like to do that. I like to use my circular needles as my markers. So let's start with row 1 of the sleeve. First we have to slide. I need to correct that. First you have to slide these stitches over on your other needle, because we're not knitting the front yet. We're going to do the 2 sleeves before we do the 2 fronts and the back. So you slide them over till you get to the marker. This is where you would put them on a holder if you wanted to, but I like to keep mine right here on the needle. They don't get in the way, they stay put. So when you get ready to start doing this part where I unraveled it, which I unraveled too soon, it's all ready for you. So you can leave the marker on if you like. Slide it over. Now you want to, I need to get another yarn here. There it is. I have to use a different color because I don't have the yellow with me, but that's all right. You want to cast on 2 stitches. Oh, you want to leave a nice long tail because this is the tail you will sew your sleeve up with. So let's have a nice tail left. Same thing, you knot it up so it stays out of your way, but you want to cast on 2. If I can get it to work. There. All right, make sure you don't use your tail yarn. Make sure you're actually using the real yarn. So now we will knit the sleeve stitches. Now this extra 2 stitches we cast on is going to be on both ends of the sleeve, and that will have a little more easement under your underarm. That gives you an extra 4 stitches under your arm. So you get all the way to the other sleeve. You do your last stitch. Now you have to cast on 2. There's several ways you can cast on. You can just do the simple cast on like this if you like, which is perfectly okay. Or you can do what they call a cable cast on, which I prefer. So since you have to turn your work backwards anyway because you purl back, you would insert the needle in the back of your stitch. Oops, put the yarn back there. Insert the needle in the back of your stitch, yarn over, pull it through. Do not take this one off. Instead, put this one on. So now you have 1 extra cast on. So let's do another one. So now we have our 2 extra stitches. And then you want to purl back. I'm not showing you on the pattern where it is, but you'll be able to find it. This yarn seems to be a little thinner than the yellow, but that's okay. Then what I like to do is place a marker on the front of the sleeve because you need to keep measuring it to make the sleeve as long as the pattern requires, depending on the size of the sweater you're making, whether it's newborn or 1 year. And having a safety pin attached to your sleeve at the center point when you first start, it's very easy to lay your work fairly flat and actually measure it out without having to worry about how many rows you do. But if you count the rows as you go, when you get ready to do the second sleeve, you'll know the second sleeves require the exact same amount of rows to get the same length. Now I'm going to purl these last 2 here. At this point, I don't really worry about the stitch holder because, as you can see, it leaves a gap. Now at this point, you just keep knitting, or you put your marker on first. I always put the marker on the first row of my sleeve. So then you can measure from here up to the length of the sleeve before you start your little bumpy edges or texture or however it is you want to do it. Let me show you on one of the other ones what I'm talking about. See right here. There's my marker, and I had to measure 4 inches. So from here to here was 4 inches, and I put a marker here so I can keep track of knitting these rows because these are numbered starting with row 1 again. All right, that takes care of part 2 of this pattern. Now the final part will show you how to finish off your sleeves, and then you pick up your work to do the body and then finish that off.